Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Van Eaton here, uh, and I am here to present my final project for this fall for Art 20 or 401, the Uncanny. I've labeled my project the Desert Chapel. So let's get started. Um, I've I spent a little time when we first got into the project. Had to pick, the three favorite cubes, and I liked the circular glass, I liked the open roof, and I liked the water. So I knew I had to have, some kind of a pool. I knew I was going to keep the circular opening motif, and other than that, I just wasn't sure where I was going to go. Um, we had to pick with a between a chapel and a spa, so I chose the chapel. And I didn't think about the site right at first. At first, I was just trying to figure out um, what I was going to do. I was going to try to incorporate some religious symbols, some Christian symbols. Of course, I had to stick with the the 9 cube grid, and of course, it was extended to 10 feet. But so that was my first. Here I was, drawing and playing around with some roof shapes, and I wasn't sure that this right here looks kind of like a fortress. Um, uh, for a while, then I started thinking about where I was going to put it, and uh, my first thoughts were I need to find like a small knob or a small hill. And what I was thinking, I was going to take the top of the hill off, put the chapel there, and then put the top of the hill back on top of it. And I'd have four corners sticking out, as you can see in this drawing. And I went through a lot of crazy different ideas. So here you can see I've got the four symbols. I came up with the symbols that I wanted to use. Was the Ithcus, the cross, the Chiro, and then the dove, of course. So as you can see, I started playing around. I didn't want a pointed cathedral type of a building. I'm not opposed to that. I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do for the roof. I initially wanted to stained glass. You can see the flow here. I was going to put stained glass flowing in the wall like that. That was a thought. And you can see, I can see this shape here taking place here. I'm playing around with the idea of how am I going to put the sanctuary, because the parameters were, you had to have still had to have a support every 10 feet. So that was kind of a challenge. That was my biggest challenge for this project. Here I am. I'm finally coming up with my final, playing around with my final shapes here. I knew I was going to have, because we were allowed to build 10 foot out on one side. That's where I was going to put the pool. So you can see that here. Um, then this was my final plan. I came up with the pool. I swung it around on the south side. I turned everything to the south because I wanted to find. Right about the time I came up with this, right after I came up with the final plan, I realized where I wanted to put the site, and it was at the Superstition Mountains. I hadn't been there before, and I figured, that'd be a kind of a cool place to. Uh, so I went up at the Lost Dutchman State Park, and I drove up there. It's only 27 miles from where I live, so I drove up there and I snapped some photos. Just walked around for about an hour, snapped some photos and everything. Got a feel of it. I plotted it out on Google Maps. Plotted out a 10-acre plot, and then that's when I changed the pool to come down to the south. I figured I was going to put some. Was going to have to put some, extended roof shading because of that, facing south. But I wanted it to face south and east, the sanctuary, because that's facing the mountain. And you'll see as we progress here. Here's a circulation um, entry, and these round glass windows. They're not windows; they're doors on a hinge in the center. And you know when it's cool, well, hot enough or cool enough, you can open them. And I've got the study, the meditation study room. I guess the pastor or the clergy or whatever could be in there, and he could walk up this walkway and then come right to the pulpit. This walkway here, and then here's this nice. It's a 3 or 4 foot deep pool. Uh, they said it needed to be close to nature, so that's why I had these glass windows in case it was either too hot or too chilly. You could have them closed, but yet you could still see out and see nature. But then you could open them and experience, the desert, uh, all the different scents and the sounds and everything. Of course, you got the ladies and gentlemen and the storage and the meditation study. So here's my sun study. I did it for the summer solstice, June 21st. 06 in the morning, you can see the sun. It's going to hit those windows, but that's 06. And by noon, this is the solar noon. This is going to, you can see the shading. It's doing its job. The sun's not getting anywhere near the windows and the doors. Um, and then, of course, here's 1800 in the evening. And you can see here on the map, this is how the blue pin here. That's how close it is. I live right here in Mesa, and so this is it's pretty close, and it's a beautiful area. So here's my first elevation. I played around and played around and played around. I didn't know what kind of roof I wanted to, was going to come up with. I wanted a flat roof, but I didn't want a flat roof. So I did a stepped roof, and between each steps here is glazing. And this glazing here is, you can open, it'll tilt remotely. Yeah, there's little mechanisms at the end of each one, and it'll be great to open those up and let for circulation. So this is my east elevation. This is where this is facing east. This side and the south side is where facing the mountain. And you can see the big wall of the pool there. And then there's the south elevation, and you can see inside where the pews are and everything. And here you can see the archway. Now this is how I got around the uh, support pillar every 10 on a 10-foot grid, because that's right in the middle of the that was my biggest challenge, trying to have a sanctuary that had to be 15 by at least 15 by 15, but yet it had to have a pillar right in the middle of it. So I don't know. This is what I came up with, and you'll see it as we move along here. There's a west elevation. Now this on the west, there's no window. That's where the entryway is. But there's no window or anything here. I didn't want that afternoon sun here in the Phoenix is brutal, so I didn't want any kind of glazing or anything down below. So it's just thick concrete, and of course, the sun will still come in these windows up here, but those can open for ventilation, and plus it's higher up, and the hot air will rise out of that roof there. And you can see my different stained glass that I produced. And then there's the north elevation. And again, on the north, there's no window. There's the entryway. You can see here's the stained glass, and but there's no other glazing or anything on that side. Now, here's a cutaway, section A of the entryway. This was one of the components from my last, from the 9 cube grid or 9 square grid. This was one of the elements that I took from that. this globe. It's a sphere full of lights. It was used to portray um, diffused lighting in previous model, but on here I used it for in the tower. And these lights, of course, at night when they shine through that stained glass, that look pretty cool. And then here, the the entryway, I took a sphere and cut out this entryway here, so it's not just a an archway. It's a spherical archway, and same with this. Now I did leave this pillar here. I had to leave that pillar because that's supporting this tower. But there's 4 feet between that pillar and this wall here. So 4 feet on either side. It's like a big doorway. So that's plenty of room to walk through there. The pillar's not going to be too much of a hindrance. Um, Now we're looking inside here. This is looking from the northwest, kind of. You can see this uh, arch that I came up with. It was an ellipse, and the pillar is still there. The pillar for the support. It's right above the 10-foot square mark, but it's raised up, and you'll see I have a better rendition of it. Um, Here in the next few slides, you'll see I have a better shot of it. So it's freestanding. It's only there to take the place of the pillar that's supposed to come, down on the floor, and it goes up and then supports the roof. Uh, Now here's a view from the inside. Uh, this area right here. You're sitting where this little figure is sitting, and looking out, and that's why I had the structure facing that way, because you're looking right at the mountains, Superstition Mountains. So that's one of the pictures I took when I went there. I think I went there Monday. That's one of the pictures I took, and I thought was pretty cool. I inserted it into Rhino, flipped it up on its edge, and then you know snuck inside the model, and it that shot turned out pretty good. Here's the site diagram. Um, this outlines the 10 acres. I plotted it. I went and walked it myself, and then I plotted it on the map too. So I knew it was 10 acres because this is whatever, it's 45,000 square feet, 43 560, something like that, I think is what 10 square miles is. And you can see I've implemented a path. This is the parking lot at the state park. This is the Palo Verde parking lot, and the Discovery Trail comes from there all the way down to the campground. So this is where you can have access. It's not a very long walk. So um, uh, I'm sure with the state we'd probably have to put more parking here if people were going to visit this place. But anyway, it's not a very far walk to here. So this is a nice, not flat. It's just a small incline here and here. You can see, but the rest of it, it's this here is like a wash. So there's 2 or 3 places that I looked at on this site. The first place was right here. That was a really good place. This right here that you can see, they're all pretty flat. Just a small incline all the way up through here was good, down through here. So I picked this place. It's closer to the, doesn't have to walk. It's far enough away where you're not on top of anybody, but uh, you got beautiful views. So that's the site diagram. Here's a better shot of that awning that I produced. It's that pillar is supposed to be right here on the floor, and I was going to leave it like that, Because yeah, there's enough. I've seen old buildings where there was a pillar in the middle of an aisle, old churches. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if I can just I'll put this archway with the support, and then there's the pillar right there. So there is 10 there's a support, but that was my solution to that. Um, and you can see the slatted roof here. Uh, there's interior rooms here, the restrooms, the storage, and the study. And then the middle of the building is kind of like a courtyard. It's the roof is slatted, so that's more. Uh, and they're 12-inch slats, so the sun's not going to be able to get through there easily, and so that's air circulation, and so that's another element that I brought in from my other model from last the 9 square grid. And here's another study from the northwest, looking down into the top of the tower. You can see the uh, stained glass, the support for it, the steps, and then, of course, all these supports for the exterior roof shading. And then, about halfway through the project, I love the copper roof. Arizona is the copper state, and I love copper, just the color, and but I also love the oxidized copper. And eventually, this roof, if it was copper, it's going to turn. Uh, it's going to be oxidized. So I went back and forth. I didn't know. This of course is the oxidized color. I looked up the color code for copper, and but I really like this color. And then here, of course, is the regular copper. So both of them I think, are attractive. But if you put the new copper on, eventually it's going to look like this. So uh, anyway, uh, big challenge. I did a lot of changes to the model, and I spent a lot of time on it. And the I think I met the challenge. The biggest challenge for me, like I said, was that art that pillar right in the